All right, I just finished this book here, President Me by Adam Carolla, and it was a pretty good book. It wasn't what I expected going in. It's written by comedians, so you know imagine a funny book, and this is what you get. It's actually pretty funny. I laughed out loud a few times, lol. But yeah, so I'm just gonna say there's a few things that I picked up from it. Even though it's more of a comedic book, there's always some truth to the jokes that the people tell. So just gonna go over some things I might have picked up from this book. And keep in mind, I'm not sure if Adam probably didn't really mean for this to be something people learn from, but regardless, we're going into it with that intention. So the first thing that I picked up from this book was he goes on to talk about a little bit about how and I honestly kind of like this idea, but he talks about a little bit about how people when they go to vote for the presidential candidate, they tend to vote for the person and not the policies, and this can sort of have a sort of this can pose some issues later on because when you think of it yourself, a lot of people can get hyped up behind certain candidates, right? I mean, in 2016, a lot of people were getting hyped up on Donald Trump or Hillary or Bernie, and they were really pushing for Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump, you know, and then people would go against the candidate. They could say like stump the Trump or sand the Sanders. I don't know, but what I'm really trying to get at behind this is we don't really realize how much we're biased just because we like people. And this will come down to something known as the halo effect, right? People we tend to like, we tend to trust and tend to think that they're more credible. What he proposes in the book that we have something called blind voting. I don't know if there's any problems with this exactly, but it seemed like a good idea. And what would happen is you go to the ballot box and the policies would just be listed out on the ballot, right? You don't know who said what, and you just vote for the policy. Um, on the face of it, it looks like a good idea. I don't know. Maybe you could argue that you might want a president or who you vote for. You might not trust some of the candidates, so maybe that would stop you from voting for their policy in general. But they shouldn't be. You shouldn't have people that up there that are allowed to lie, and that's like a whole nother problem. But yeah, that's the first thing. Just be aware of how we're biased towards people we like. The next point he kind of talks about, I'm just going to go over this really quickly. It's a funny book. It's literally a comedy book. The whole book's basically about picking out little things that annoy us in life and then how we could fix them in a comedic way. But a lot of things in our life are designed poorly. And one of the things that really struck in my mind was he would talk about things that use electricity and you can't tell if they're on or not because there's no indication, right? And I think the one he said was the ceiling fan. He made a joke out of it, like it'd be really hard to tell. You kept pulling the cord or pressing the button to turn the ceiling fan on and off, and you would never know if it's on or off. He said in his book he would mandate it as president, right? It's a comedic book. He would mandate it that anything electronic would have to have that little LED light that flashes on when it's on and turns off when it's off. And while we probably shouldn't get too wrapped up in the specifics of the LED light technology for things that are using electricity. What we can't take from this is there are a lot of things in our life that are poorly designed that we use every day, yet we continue to use them without taking any steps to make it so that the problems or the problems that we see with them get fixed, right? Think in your life, and it's hard to think of. It's generally something that kind of when it comes up, you'll see it. But try to take time to be aware and kind of meditate on your experience and see that when are the times that you go around, you're like, this thing right here is annoying me. How can I fix this, right? Instead of just kind of suffering through the pain and doing it over and over, we should take the time to build the habit to innovate a way out, as Jeff Bezos would say, and to kind of fix anything that's causing us any little problems. It's going to cause us a lot more joy later on, and as long as it doesn't take too much time, of course, right? You don't want to spend, I don't know, the next 50 hours of your life, or even worse, like next 10 years of your life trying to figure out something that it causes you a delay of a minute a day, right? 50 years isn't worth it. And the last point he kind of talks about is something that I kind of agree with, right? And it's kind of comes down to the fact that a lot of people today, he said, as our generation, or the newer generation, I should say, are getting a little bit softer. And while there is an element of truth to that, people are seeming to be softer. I don't know if they're getting more soft or less soft, or what direction anything's going in towards. But there's a problem when people, or at least it becomes socially acceptable to become kind of weaker and look out for a lot of handouts from other people, right? When this happens, you kind of you become weak as a person and weak as a society, and it's pretty clear to see that this will just cause a lot of undue suffering, right? Think of it like this: would you as a person rather be somebody who is dependent upon others to give them what they need, whether it be a job, whether it be but I don't whether really anything, right? Would you want to depend on anybody to get something from them, right? Or would you rather be somebody who has the ability and the grit to go after what you want and to get it yourself? So I think it's important, and one thing that he points out in this book is it's important that he says to kind of develop a little bit of mental fortitude and self grit, or a little bit of grit, and work hard, work ethic to to be able to go get what you want and take it from the world rather than ask for handouts. And it's just something to keep on your mind. You know, if there's ever times where you're thinking you might feel a little bit entitled to something, whether it be compensation for buying a bad product. And I'm not saying that you don't deserve the compensation, but just try to keep in mind a little bit more, because there are a lot of times, even in my life, I feel a little bit that I might have acted in an entitled way, and I should have just I should have just put in the grit and done the work and innovated my own way out rather than looking for somebody to bail me out. And yeah, it was pretty short. That's all I really got. 3 things. Beware how we are socially influenced, the halo effect. We're drawn to charismatic leaders, not necessarily if their ideas are better or not. Number 2, if there's something that's I don't know why I'm not at a loss for words right now. If there's something that's annoying you and causing a hindrance and a problem in your life, that you do it every day and you see it all the time, take the time to figure out, is there a way you can easily solve this? Right? Maybe you sit in a chair every day, and after you sit in your chair for, I don't know, 2 hours, you find that you're uncomfortable. So maybe you should get a new chair. Maybe you should figure out a routine where you have to get up every hour and a half, so then you don't get uncomfortable every 2 hours, or whatever it may be. And number 3, get some grit, get some work ethic. Start putting in the work. Don't always look for a handout from somebody to save you. Find out a way to save yourself and become your own hero. And as always, that's all I learned from this. So have a good day.